Hello, this is Yaakov Kronenberg from Jerusalem, and tonight we're going to be starting a new series of classes on the ascendant in Capricorn and the ruling planet Saturn, and a little bit of help from Uranus, which is a secondary ruling planet, in the different signs and houses. And we'll start again with a general introduction on the Capricorn ascendant. Capricorn ascendant. Capricorn is a very serious sign. It's ruled by Saturn. The good side of Saturn is that it's a planet of great forethought, of great patience, of great willing to bear any responsibility, willing to bear any burden if it's a good Saturn. And so it has positive signs. Of course, on the negative aspect to it, it's a planet of delay, hindrance, obstacles, serious problems. Even if it's a really bad Saturn, it can be very, very destructive by nature. It's much too cold, a planet. People have very, very strong Saturns, not so good. They can be very cold by nature. They can be... they'll hide themselves, they'll stay to themselves, and, sometimes they'll get very involved in, their books and learning and things like that, but they can tend to be restricted. They have a feeling of being restricted. The Capricorn by nature always feels like he's living in a room and the walls are sliding in on him, wanting to crush him, and he's always feeling this feeling of limitation, that he spends his whole life trying to, break out of this limitation. The Saturn is the mountain goat that tries to go up there. It's a sign of a person. What's the mountain goat? The mountain goat is climbing the mountain, wants to get to the top of the mountain. It symbolizes, on one hand, I think it was a Chazon Ish, very famous rabbi. He said, what's the difference between an easy life and a hard life? An easy life is like where you're walking on a straight plane. A hard life is where you're walking uphill. So you see the Saturn with the goat going up the mountain, it's not an easy path, right? To climb a mountain is much harder than to walk a straight line. And but the reward can be much greater, right? According to the test is the reward, and so a person who's got a very good who can achieve, is willing to climb that mountain. The Capricorn is willing to make the effort to climb that mountain. In the end, he's going to get higher than anybody else. He'll be at the top of the mountain and look down and feel like, wow, I really accomplished everything I set out to do, and now I'm number one, I'm on the top of the mountain. And so that's a good side of the Saturn personality. Right? And Saturn, actually I made a mistake. Actually, when we're talking about Capricorn, it's really not Uranus. We don't consider Uranus as a secondary ruling planet. That we only consider in Aquarius. We'll get up to Aquarius soon. And that Saturn shares with Uranus. But Capricorn tends to be more just Saturnian. It doesn't have that... lightness, the certain lightness that Aquarius has, and changeability and desire for radical things that the Aquarian Saturn has. But they both Capricorn and Aquarius both rule Saturn. If you look in the zodiac, the chart of Adam was shown. It's interesting that the two signs that rule Saturn are next to each other. Capricorn, the 10th sign, and Aquarius, the 11th sign, are both ruled by Capricorn. And the signs that opposite them are the sun and the moon, both lights. In other words, if you have Saturn in Capricorn, it'll be opposite the moon in Cancer. And if you have Saturn in Aquarius, it'll have the sun opposite it in Leo. And so that's why it was called the enemy of the light, Saturn. Right? Because Saturn comes and destroys the lights. And that in Judaism, those 2 months where the sun and the moon are, those really are the 2 months where the Jews tend to suffer the most. That's the months of Tammuz, where the temple walls were breached, and Av, where the temple was destroyed. both are known months where the Jews suffered a lot and still suffer till this day. And so you see that because of the lights, the idea of the lights being attacked by Saturn. And in other words, Esav still rules over those 2 months more than the other months. And so again, so you have to look again where Saturn is. We're going to talk about where since Saturn is the ruling planet. The nature of the Capricorn is Capricorn, remember, is an Earth sign, and it's cardinal sign, meaning it always moves forward. The Capricorn never looks back. The Capricorn is the planet of foresight. If he's got a problem, he's always looking too much into the future, because he's worried. He's always looking for enemies and problems, and he's very cautious. It's the sign that the great foresight. It's always looking ahead, and so sometimes it can lose the present. They lose the present because it's so worried about the future. That's why they make good astrologers. Capricorn risings make excellent astrologers. On the one hand, they, instead of looking all the time at their own charts, they'll look at other people's charts, and will take away some of their they'll use a lot of their foresight on other people, not on themselves, which is nice. And just because they have that foresight, they can see what's coming. It trains them to see into the future, and they have ability at that, which is also a nice. It's a nice characteristic, a nice trait that they're able to. But it can cause problems in life because you don't live in the present; you're always in the future. Right? It rules Capricorn rules the 10th house, which is the future. Right? It's your career, it's your future, it's where you're heading. Right? So since it rules that house, it influences that. Right? Saturn is the natural ruler of the 10th house, so there's always going to be very important the career for the Capricorn. The Capricorn finds themselves through their life work. That seems to be the most important thing for the Capricorn, and so they're always trying to, fulfill themselves through their work. And if you look in which house Saturn falls, you get an idea of in which area of life they're going to try to, to fulfill themselves, their work and stuff. So if you have say Saturn in the 9th house, they might try to fulfill their career through religion, law, philosophy. If it falls in the 5th house, they could even be acting or sports or investments, all sorts of things like that. So you have to really look where the Saturn falls in the chart and where the ruler of the 10th falls in the chart, because it's going to be very, very important for a Capricornian person. He's always going to want to know, he or she, they'll want to know what kind of career they should be in. Right, so you're always going to have to train them in that. It's a very earthy sign, very practical, very down to earth. A lot of natural. They know how to get by in the world. You can't put anything over them. It's all in all, it's quite a good sign, and I think we'll start next week going through the Capricorn, Saturn, and the different signs. I thank everybody for listening.